Hi folks, Dr. Pulsifer here to debunk a foolish bit of conventional wisdom, the saying, you get what you pay for. Because at least in games, and certainly elsewhere as far as I'm concerned, you get what you pay for is simply not true. If people were infallibly wise purchasers, maybe it would apply. But we all know that in a consumer capitalist society, that's not even close to true. For example, I knew someone who'd worked in a clothing factory. The same production line of clothing had different labels attached to it, from cheap to designer. Same product, different label. You know the designer versions were sold for a great deal more than the others. So what happened to you get what you pay for? And what about sales? Sales drive consumer capitalism. If you pay $10 for an online course that someone else paid $199 for, what happened to get what you pay for? It's exactly the same course, and yes, it happens. Sales are so ubiquitous that in some retail areas, such as non-AAA video games and clothing, sales are the norm. Yet people still pay full price sometimes. So is there a real value? Discounts and sales come from whatever it is being worth its supposed value. Surely that's obvious. This is further twisted by the tendency to think digital stuff that's just made out of electrons, downloadable stuff, should be free, such as video games and online courses. People will pay more for a cup of coffee at Starbucks than for a video game they might play for hours. I'm talking about mobile video games. So what's the real value? To me, the real value is how much on average people actually pay for it. And I probably mean the median, not the mean, to get rid of the skew from the $199 sales. But that can change over time, especially for video games. There's a tendency in video games to discount heavily when sales dry up, and the sales dry up after a few months. Or, in the case of AAA games which don't get discounted early on, the used market then competes with the new. You can see it in movies as well. If there's a discount movie house in town, where I used to live, there was a movie house that had movies a few months after they were in the main theaters for $2 or $3. That's where I went to watch movies. Look at how much the price of a game, especially a video game, can vary. Take as an example Lou Pulsifer's Doomstar, my own game for PC, Mac, and Linux. It was published by a company called Large Visible Machine. The retail price was $10, but it was on sale before release for $7.50 in mid-September 2016. Now, mid-March 2017, it's in bundles with other games for a total of $2.25. That's not because it's somehow worth less, but because of typical buying habits. Retail sales near full price occur around release time and then they dry up. And also there's too much competition from the new. There's always lots and lots of new games coming out, and that distracts from the older ones. So you have bundles. In the case of AAA games, you have bargain bins. And of course, you also can have, in the case of AAA games, online purchasing at discounts. The online salespeople don't have a brick and mortar place that they have to support. They can sell it more cheaply. Now, what about brand? I've seen people argue that brand is important to a buyer. Well, most of the time, not anyone with much sense as far as I'm concerned. But there may be a few items where brand makes a difference. But is it worth the cost? Think of that clothing production line. Some people might think having that label on there with a particular brand or particular designer's name on it enhances them somehow. I think they're just damn fools for paying more than the product is worth. Nor does brand come up in most of my examples. It's an identical item right down to the branding. In many cases I've used, people are trading time for money. They wait for the price to fall. But the value of the thing hasn't fallen, has it? It's just the price that falls. In others, as in the clothing factory or online course, there's no such trade-off. Some people just pay more than others for an identical product. So, as far as I'm concerned, you get what you pay for is a ridiculous statement. Thanks for listening.